Hello, hello. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining me for The Magic is in You podcast episode 2. I'm so stoked to be here today. And I know that I say that a lot. I'm really excited, but truly I'm really freaking excited to be here with you today. Like I mentioned in episode number 1, this podcast has been on my heart. It's been something that I've been dreaming about cultivating and growing and just allowing impact to flow from for years now. And I'm so excited to be starting it now here, recording episode number 2 in Inspiration Cabin, which is a converted garage into this epic showroom space slash Airbnb space slash workshop space. So real quick backstory. Years ago, my husband Nate and I wanted a dream, like a property here in Northwest Montana. And we wanted somewhere where we could create things. We're quite creative people. We had started a fabrication business. At the same time, I was shutting down my massage business, a steel fabrication business, industry Nate worked in for a long time, and that I had actually poked around in way back in high school. I took a bunch of welding classes, not a very studious traditional student. So to graduate high school, I took all of the welding and CAD and architectural design classes. Anyway, long story short here. Once upon a time, we wanted a space that we could cultivate, where we could share it with people, where we could just like continue to add art and features and like these beautiful little moments to be able to truly enjoy this beautiful Northwest Montana that we get to call home, and also be able to share it with others. As we had been opening our fabrication business and had these 2 sweet shelter dogs, but who need a little bit of room, we really desired a property. And a little over 2 years ago, it manifested. Like literally, we weren't even looking for a property. And it's amazing how when you align your energy, the universe aligns the opportunities for you. So we jumped full in, and part of purchasing this property was going to be cultivating 2 camper pads, RV pads, because like I said, we're right next to Glacier National Park, and we have a ton of travelers, visitors through this area, and we wanted to cultivate a space for them. So part of this property purchase was us going into it with the intention of creating 2 camper RV pads, along with converting what was a 2-car garage into this epic Airbnb space to help sustain the property and create some self-sustaining income, and also be able to, like I said, have that fun, have that creativity, have that inspiration of where we can kind of use this space as a playground for our creativity in our steel fabrication business. We create functional steel art and wall art and furniture, these barn doors even here as I'm sitting here. Anyway, it started with this idea. This possibility of like, what would it be like to have a property? What would it be like to have a property where our wild, amazing little shelter mutts could run free and just be themselves, unencumbered by other people, other dogs, other things in town, right? And they could just like have the beautiful freedom of a property. What would it be like for us to be able to create, for me to be able to host workshops, yoga workshops, coaching workshops, retreat space that I could actually invite people into and have this sacred light-filled space as I'm looking out here at Inspiration Cabin in this newly finished, renovated space. It all started long before the space manifested. Like I said, years we had been talking about this property, and we were just in so much gratitude, so much excitement for it for one day. We thought it would be like 5-10 years out, and then all of a sudden an opportunity came knocking at our doorway, and we totally jumped. We jumped off the side of the cliff and we're like, full send, here we go. Here's to the next adventure. Here's to the next like amazing creation that we get to cultivate here. And I will not tell you it was like an easy cultivation. There were tons of bumps, tons of things that happened along the way. But as I'm sitting in this space here now, recording this podcast that I had the idea of before we actually even purchased this property, I dreamed about creating this podcast that I'm sharing with you now. And 2.5 years later, I am just beginning it. I'm at the start of something new, something very exciting. It feels like this grand adventure, just like purchasing this property 2.5 years ago. And part of the reason it took me a little while to get around to it, not to make excuses, but sometimes we have to focus on like 1 or 2 or like 10 things versus like 100 things at a time. And so this podcast was put on pause for a little while, and it allowed me to grow myself, grow my resilience, grow that knowing in myself that I am capable of figuring shit out, so that the second I was able to have like a second in my mind after we've started a gazillion new things in the last few years, the second I was able to start something new, here I am recording episode 2 days after I recorded the first episode, even though I'm doing all of the other things. We just hosted our very first Airbnb guest and got a 5-star review. I'm so excited. They loved the space. They loved the creativity. They noticed all of the details that Nate and I were so intentional about in this space. Every teeny tiny little nook and cranny in this garage has been gone over like 25 times at least. And we've just really put a lot of intention into Inspiration Cabin. We wanted this cabin to be a space of creativity for creatives to be able to come here and experience, come here and base camp. This part of our property with our RV pads and our little inspiration cabin here, we call creative hideouts, as a space to intentionally cultivate creativity for entrepreneurs, for creatives, for artists, because that's who we are, and for adventurers, for people who are seeking the beauty of Northwest Montana, to inspire them, to cultivate that little spark of joy, that little spark of what's next, of possibility. And yeah, we created this space because we wanted to intentionally share an inspiring space where people could feel like they're away from it all, but be only minutes from town, super close to the mountains and the park, and also be able to cultivate that inspiration that drives them in their life. Not only, for example, do I love adventuring in the mountains here and on the rivers and skiing and like all of the things here in Northwest Montana, but I also love adventuring in growing myself, knowing myself, teaching yoga, creating beautiful metal artwork, like cultivating this beautiful space. I've even been told I could be an interior designer if I wanted to. Just tipping my hat there. Not that I want to be an interior designer at all, but it has just been so much fun to like push myself way the fuck outside my comfort zone, and not just by myself, but with my partner, with my husband, Nate, and also alongside my parents, where it has been such a growth journey, and like, oh my gosh, so much growth in so many ways, working with family, cultivating with family, doing things with family. And like Nate, my dad, and I worked side by side for the vast majority of this project. And then Nate and I kind of took it to the finish line with all of the finished work in here. And just so grateful for that opportunity to be able to do that with my parents. And it's funny, we tell people we're doing this with my folks, and they're like, and you guys still talk to each other? And I'm so grateful that through a ton of like mindset work, intention, and communication, we still love each other. We still hang out together. And it's been very intentional about creating those boundaries, about creating that intentional communication and growth. And none of this would have been possible had we not had the guts to just start. Had we not had the dream to just start. Had we not had this vision of what we desired to feel, experience, and like be able to create in this lifetime, none of this would have happened, because it all starts with a dream. And each one of us has a unique individual dream. For example, not everybody wants a property in Northwest Montana to do metalwork and like host campers and that kind of thing. Just like not everybody wants to be an Olympic gold medal swimmer, or not everybody wants to, be a rock star. Like, we all have our own individual dreams. We all are gifted with our own individual dreams. One of my dreams is to empower women to cultivate and own their badassery and really tune in, tap in, and turn on the magic within inside of them so that they can cultivate their dreams. Because for so much of my life, I lived it not believing things were possible for me. And if I didn't believe in any sort of possibility, or I didn't let my mind explore possibilities about what could be, what could happen, what I could cultivate, what I could dream of, what would be possible for me in this lifetime, had I not started there, none of this would have happened. I would still be working at Costco, a job that I worked when I started there at like 20 years old, just allowing myself to stay there because it paid pretty good and it was like pretty easy and like not totally horrible, even though I really fucking hated everybody who's there because they're assholes, like all the customers. Loved my coworkers. Anyway, we don't have to go down that road. But had I not even considered the possibility of something better, had I not considered the fact that I would rather get out of there now rather than later and take a pay cut and go make coffee instead because it was a much more enjoyable place to work, had I not considered the possibility of like figuring out how I could help people, because all I had wanted to do growing up was help people. I didn't feel smart enough to like go and become a doctor or a nurse or like do any of these like really intense school things, because my grades certainly didn't show that. I had been diagnosed with a learning disability as a real little kid and really struggled in school. So it was one of those things where I just didn't feel like things were possible. I had been injured a ton as a kid because I was super active in sports, and so sports didn't feel possible. Like the, studious stuff didn't feel possible. So I was like, well, just like figure it out. And I allowed myself to follow my curiosity. I allowed myself to follow this desire to help people. I allowed myself to follow both of those things. And as I was working as a barista at a co-op in Bozeman, which I love dearly still. Anyway, as I was working as a barista there, I met a lot of different massage therapists, and it was amazing. All of the massage therapists that I made coffee for in the morning loved their job. And I was like, you can like help people and love your job? What? Like, that's possible? How do you do that? And so I just like allowed myself to follow the curiosity of possibility, and eventually ended up going to massage therapy school in Costa Rica for an intensive program. And this program totally kicked my ass. It was so fucking hard. Like I said, not a school person, struggled with reading, struggled with all that kind of stuff really bad growing up. And all of a sudden I was going to do a full biology textbook in 3.5 weeks in this intensive massage therapy program. It just totally kicked my ass initially. And once I got the groove, I got in there and was able to like get into the hands-on, learn the biology, study my ass off, get some extra tutoring, all these things. All of a sudden, within a few months, like 6 months later, I was a licensed massage therapist in the state of Montana, and I started a new career that I absolutely fucking loved, where I was making good money, or what felt like really good money, where I was helping people, making a difference in their life, and getting to work with my hands and create something beautiful. Not a tangible creation, but the difference in people from before and after they got on and off the massage table was just like the light of my life. And then a number of years later, all sorts of things happened. I started my own massage therapy practice, my private practice, and was loving it and was thriving in it, had tons of regular clients. I was booked out for weeks and months in advance, and just like totally in my groove. And when COVID gifted us our shutdown, all of a sudden the universe kind of just like went And it was time for me to transition out of massage for a number of different reasons, but that's what allowed me to full send and really dive into rapid transformational therapy, hypnotherapy, that I had started studying for a little bit before COVID came around, but had not like totally committed myself because I, again, was scary starting something new. And COVID gifted me this time off of my personal massage therapy practice, running a business and doing all of the things. It gifted me this time where I could actually fully dive in and immerse myself into becoming a rapid transformational therapy practitioner. And my life has never looked the same since. Within a few weeks, or I guess like 6 to 8 weeks of COVID hitting, all of a sudden I was closing my massage practice for good. I was opening a steel fabrication business with my husband, literally like within 2 weeks of each other, closing my practice and opening our fabrication business, and full sending, studying, and beginning my practice as a rapid transformational therapist. And it's just wild how life works. And here I am, starting this new thing, starting my podcast after I've been coaching and practicing RTT for a few years. I've been teaching yoga for years. I've been a Reiki master for years, and also building and doing all sorts of fabrication work with my husband and design work and just so much learning. Here I am starting something new again. And I say this, I'm sharing all of this, because I'm a noob and I'm still figuring this whole podcasting thing out. And I kind of want to give you just like a tiny little backstory about me. Like, who the fuck is this girl, Kelsey Holmes from Northwest Montana? Like, what's she doing? What's her story a little bit? I wanted to give you a little bit of background of me and where I came from and how I have made a lot of transitions in my life and how I have allowed myself to just kind of daydream on possibilities, on what ifs, on what could be possible. And as I've followed those possibility daydreams with a little bit of curiosity, some have fizzled out and others have taken root, like creating this epic property that I'm so grateful to get to call home with Nate and our rescue pups, Togi and Opie, and getting to share it with fucking people. Oh my gosh, it felt just so surreal last week when we had our very first Airbnb guest here. Nate and I, for like 3 days, were like, oh my gosh, there's like people staying in the rental. It's not just us covered in insulation and sawdust and drywall and all sorts of other shit that we've been doing for months and months at that point. Like, people are actually there enjoying it. Like, this is so cool. But I'm sharing all this because here I am starting something new, and I'm excited to be capturing this energy for this podcast, The Magic is in You, for this also video podcast, because these are also on YouTube. So if you ever want to see my goofy face and my like wild hand gestures, come check me out on YouTube. And I'm super excited because, like I said, this has been on my heart for a super long time. Podcasts have been incredibly life-changing for me and influential in my life for me. And I am so excited to be sharing with you because for a long time, the idea of like energy, magic, all of these things just weren't with me. I had really struggled with self-loathing and self-doubt and not feeling good enough for all of the reasons. We all have our own like story, our own reasons, our own experiences. And it took me a while to figure the whole like self-love thing out. It took me a while to feel confident enough for like following my thread of curiosity. It took me a while to even feel safe just dreaming, because I thought even just the dream, if I desired something, if I dreamed of something, what if it didn't happen? I mean, I literally am getting chills all over my body. This was so visceral for me for so much of my life, that possibility of the dream not being able to come to fruition, not being able to bring it into this tangible 3D reality was so heartbreaking. I didn't even allow myself to dream. I didn't allow myself to set goals. I didn't allow myself to desire more than like some shitty ass job where I'm dealing with super crabby ass customers on their way to and from work. Yeah. And it wasn't until I allowed myself to follow my curiosity, show myself some compassion, and really lean into getting to know myself, to getting to trust myself, to giving myself a chance to have and show myself compassion, that I was able to even like really tap into my light again. You know how we're all born with this light. We're all born with this love. We're all born with this confidence. As little babies, we don't second guess crying. We cry because we need something. It's just innate in us. And then we love our bodies. Like, we're touching our bodies all up and down, like from head to toe. We love every bit of our body because we don't know any different, right? It's not until we're conditioned by society, by generational things, by family things, by this and that, that we start to develop those odd ways of thinking or shitty ass ways of thinking about ourselves. And so it takes a little bit of time to deprogram and relearn how we can come back to that light that we were initially born with, that energy that we were initially born with. Way back when, my very first job, actually, when I was 13 years old, I was laid up in a walking boot because I had sprained my ankle for the umpteenth time and was out of figure skating for the season. And so one of the moms there, I had babysat her kids quite a bit. One of the moms there offered me a job at her daycare, you know, getting paid under the table at the mountain daycare kind of thing. And I worked at the daycare for like 5 years there. And it's just, I just love little kids. They're so much fun because you can tell that they just like are themselves. They're their own little beings. They're figuring things out in this world. They're so curious. And when they have that, like, especially when they have a safe and loving environment, you can just see them like meandering around, learning the world. And there's not like any doubt in their mind that they are safe, that they are loved, that they are enough. We are all born with that. It's just sometimes it gets conditioned out of us. And relearning that is one of the most crucial things I think we can do for ourselves in this lifetime. And not just for ourselves. It's not just for ourselves. It is for ourselves, and it's for our loved ones, and it's for our children, and it's for our family, and it's for our friends, and it's for our community, for our state, for our country, for this world, literally. Because when we can show up with kindness and compassion and trust towards ourselves, it allows us to show up in the world as a better person, and it allows us to also lead by example. Because nobody's gonna follow you by force, right? Anyway, we don't have to go down that road. But it allows you to show up in that light, leading by example and inspiring others to realize that it's possible for them. Because again, for a long time, a huge portion, I didn't think it was possible for me. So that's why I am cultivating this podcast, The Magic is Inside of You. Because for so long, I was seeking external sources, external validation, external things, relationships, jobs, status, this or that, to feel enough, to feel worthy, to feel like I deserved it, to feel like I deserved to be in this world. And it wasn't until I started to work on myself and get to know myself, get to trust myself, show myself compassion and love, that I actually started to feel that way. And I'm so grateful to be here now with you. Just because I know how much this work has transformed my life, how much it's transformed my relationships, how much it's transformed my world, and how much it can transform yours as well. So please like, comment, share this podcast, The Magic is Inside of You. I'm going to be putting my heart into this, releasing episodes every single week. And again, here to showcase and inspire and empower you to tune in, step in, and turn on the magic that's already within inside of you. In love, light, and so much gratitude. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace.